But today there's something odd in our chapter, in our verses 1 through 6. Let's see if it strikes you odd. Here's what it says. Now a man was sick, Lazarus, from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, and it was her brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sister sent a message to him, Lord, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard it, he said, the sickness will not end in death, but it's for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. We'll stop there. You see anything odd? It sticks in my craw, that word so. It also means therefore. I mean, how is that love? The reason he doesn't come to them right away is because he loves them. That's the reason. It just doesn't compute in my head. But can you imagine receiving that message? Here's the deal. Lazarus died the day the messenger left. And he took a day or 2 to get to Jesus. Jesus knew probably that Lazarus had already died. There's some disagreement on that. So knowing that, he tells the messenger to tell Mary and Martha that this sickness will not end in death. So he goes back, gives them the message. They hear that Jesus said this sickness will not end in death. What a piling upon grief that is. How could they have responded to that? How did they feel about this? They'd hoped Jesus would hurry back. The message didn't say hurry back, but I don't know, Mary was probably the first passive resistant disciple. Kind of like his mom was the same one, same kind of thing. Jesus, they ran out of oil. They ran out of wine. Jesus, they ran out of wine. Mary's saying to Jesus, Jesus, Lazarus is sick. They'd hoped he would come, but he just sends this message. It's a tragic, ironic message of hope, when hope is all gone. Hope is lost forever. How is that love? They knew Jesus could have healed Lazarus if he had just come, but he didn't. They even probably knew that he didn't need to be there to heal, just like he healed that, centurion's servant or son. That story said, you can go, he's healed. They knew he could do that, but he didn't do it. Lazarus died. And of course, they knew the Sanhedrin was out to kill Jesus if he ever should come back to Greater Jerusalem again, so maybe that's why they didn't outright ask him to come, and maybe they figured out that's why he didn't come, because he didn't want to risk his life. But one thing was very clear to them when this message from Jesus came, that this sickness will not end in death. One thing was very clear to them. Jesus didn't know. Jesus didn't know. He didn't know. This passage sounds like a real trial for him. A faith workout, you might say. It was a serious temptation to doubt. Where was Jesus when we needed him? Where was he? He wasn't here. He didn't do a thing. Lazarus was so sure that Jesus was going to heal him. We thought Jesus loved us. Well, maybe he doesn't care after all. Maybe he doesn't have the power or the authority he claims to have. Well, that's probably how they were feeling. And I think we have all been there at some point. The difference was that Jesus could see the big picture. And this is where we're coming to what Iris was talking about. He knew that as traumatic as this death would be for them, what was coming up would be worse. It would shake them. It would shake them to their knees. His crucifixion is coming up. They needed to be strengthened. He was preparing them, giving them a faith workout. But they didn't know that yet. Lazarus didn't know that yet. But Jesus did. I'm sure we've been there. Where is Jesus when you need him? Times like that. When I sing that song, Just When I Need Him Most, sometimes it just sounds so false. I sing it, just when I need him, Jesus is near, and he isn't just when I need him most. There are times like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes Jesus just isn't there. Not yet. Not yet. I'm going to read a story to you. It's from our friend Marsha Kurka. And I was wondering when I saw this passage, how am I going to preach this? She did it. And I didn't earn my paycheck today. Most of this is her story. So it's so good. She's been there. She knows all about this, and we're going to hear it. In a way, she too was brought back to life from a really dread disease. I think she and Lazarus had much the same testimony, in fact. And this is what she told our sister church, Woodbury Baptist Church, where she attends. On March 16, 2013, I was living my life as many adults do. I was 59, busy, happy, active, making plans for all sorts of things. The next day, on March 7th, 2013, my world turned upside down. I ended up in the hospital with a very serious illness, which was later diagnosed as multiple system organ failure. My kidney and liver were damaged. My heart was shocked. My lungs were filling up with fluid. Ever since then, I've been on dialysis, and my liver is still not quite back to normal. Prior to this event, I had been a very physically active person with love of the outdoors, especially biking long distances. You can see that up in the corner there. So I wasn't sure I would do very well if I ended up in the hospital. I wondered if I might fall apart. I also wondered how my faith would hold up, whether or not it would help me. How would my relationship with God be affected? This was a life-changing event for me that has altered my perspective on many things, including my faith. I'd like to share 3 significant experiences that I had during my illness and some reflections on those. So Psalm 145:18 is the first verse she quotes. She says, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." When I was in intensive care unit at St. John's Hospital, some friends gifted me with this simple brown wooden cross that fits in the palm of my hand. I'm sure many of us have seen those little crosses. I was very grateful for the gift, but it didn't change how I was feeling. I'd been in the hospital for several days undergoing umpteen tests, procedures, visits from doctors. Needless to say, it was not relaxing, while all her organs were shutting down. When they finally moved me out of ICU to a regular room, I was looking forward to a peaceful, relaxing evening. I had a lovely bath. I was able to watch a complete hour-long TV program, and a nurse came in periodically to check on me. And then 2 nurses came in, and then several. And I realized something was not right. The decision was made to move me back up to ICU because my oxygen level was too low. And all of a sudden, I realized that the only thing in my life that was not changing was what that cross represented. No matter what was happening around to me and to my body, Jesus was there, unchanging, firm, faithful. Sometimes you really do need something to hang on to that's physical, don't we? I had a solid anchor. I felt peace of mind like I've never felt before. I carried that cross and that peace with me throughout my hospital stay. I would even buzz the staff when I lost it in the fold of the blankets. I bet they loved that, to help me find it. Okay, Psalm 145, verse 20. The Lord watches over all who love him. The amount of love and support shown to me during my illness was simply overwhelming. It strengthened me, lifted up my spirit, gave me courage to carry on. It was as if an army arose to hold me up and let me know I was loved. My sister sent out a request to have people send me cards. Now, Donna, you're going to love this. This just verifies your ministry. So many people did. The cards were taped up in my hospital room and literally covered the walls. I read each card several times. And each time I was moved to a different room, I read them all again. One day, a nurse gave me a packet of 22 cards and asked me if I was somebody important they didn't know about. A janitor with a mop in his hand stood at the entrance to my room, looked at all the cards, and said, "I have never seen anything like this." The hospital chaplain said the same thing. I felt special and loved and prayed for and supported, and it really gave me strength to know so many people were praying for me and thinking about me. I experienced the love of God through his people. He watched over me through you. Psalm 145:14. The Lord upholds all who fall and lifts up all who are bowed down. Well, at one point in my recovery, I came home from the hospital. I was in a lot of physical pain and quite depressed. I didn't feel good and ended up in ER several times with massive headaches brought on by dialysis. I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Sounds like that song we just sang. My spiritual director came into my room and described my situation as one of anguish, to which I heartily agreed. She assured me that even though I couldn't see or feel God, that he was there with me. It sounded good, but God sure felt far away. She said that God is always deeper than what we're experiencing, whether it's anguish or anxiety or depression. I liked hearing that too, but it still didn't make me feel any better. Then I told her I felt like I was butting up against a wall. And I didn't want to go back to dialysis the next day because I was pretty sure I'd end up with that horrific headache again. She said to me, well, you know, Jesus walked through a wall. All of a sudden I realized that was true, that God was with me in that room, and I began to feel hopeful again. I sat up. I felt life was worth living. I had hope, you know. My spirit had been renewed. I'd been in pits before, but never one like that. And I know now that even in the deepest pit, even the one we can't imagine, God is indeed there. I'm grateful for what this experience has revealed to me. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but what I've learned and experienced has made my faith more real and much deeper and stronger than ever before. I'm not as afraid of death anymore, or of falling apart, because I did indeed experience the love and presence of God that I've often read about in Scripture over the years. It doesn't mean I'm no longer afraid, but I do seem to have a greater internal confidence in God's faithful, loving care and presence and peace. I now know in a whole new way that life is indeed a gift. Each day is a gift. And indeed, each breath we take is a gift. I'm trying to live in the present now. I'm trying to live day by day, moment by moment, because that's all we really have. God has indeed been my song and my strength and my hope throughout my whole life, she says. Marsha's going back to Mayo Clinic in November for MRI on her liver to see if it's strong enough for her to do dialysis. Her sister Valerie has been approved as an organ donor, so they're hoping that they can do a kidney transplant and she can get off this dialysis. She's a long-distance biker and works out. We see her at the gym. Well, we saw her at the gym. And I think God's giving her a terrific faith workout. So did Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. They didn't see Jesus walking down the path to their house before Lazarus died. But they knew him well. They knew Jesus. Best friends. They knew him. They knew Jesus had the big picture. Sometimes it helps to know there is a big picture and that Jesus knows it. Before, this is a little story. We drive back and forth, right? And before we got our smartphones, we would get into a traffic jam, usually twice in the summer as we're going back to the cities. And it's so frustrating. And we get so irritated not knowing how long we'd be stuck there, looking at the other cars. But now with those gadgets in the car, we don't have to see just the cars stopped all around us. We can tap on a map app. And we can fly overhead. And we can see the whole road and see what's happening up there. And the jam is usually not far away. And we're soon zooming again, even faster, because there's less traffic because of the jam back there. This passage is kind of like that. It's kind of like a traffic jam without the smartphone. But we see by faith, not by a map. I guess you could say that when the sister sent this message to Jesus, he did have this heavenly map app. He knew what he was going to do. And he knew what it was going to precipitate. He knew it would precipitate his crucifixion. And he knew they would see him jammed up. But he also knew that he is the resurrection and the life. They didn't know that yet. Then we could do some miracles and so on, heal people and so on. They didn't know he was the resurrection and the life, that he is the resurrection and the life. Now, he loved his friends, and he wanted his friends to know that, so he waited for 2 days. He waited until there was absolutely no possibility of saving Lazarus from this illness. Absolutely no possibility of resuscitation. The guy was already decaying. No possibility of his spirit hovering about that would then come back. That's the belief of some of those folks back then. Jesus really wanted to give them a faith workout. Okay, like Marsha, let's trust Jesus to know. Let's trust Jesus to use even our most terrible situations to display his wonderful presence and power in our lives. Let's trust that whatever we're going through now, in the future, I guess, future now, let's trust Jesus that he does have the big picture. He does know what's going on. He's giving us a faith workout. His powerful presence will be in our life. Let's trust him, even though the workout hurts. Remember, Jesus is the resurrection and the life, even when it doesn't feel like it. Yeah, I guess that is love, all right. That is love. What a friend we have in Jesus.